everyone, and welcome to my channel, Roadmap to Wellness. I'm Dr. Pushpa Chauhan, and today we're talking about something that affects millions of people worldwide, anxiety. Anxiety is more than just feeling stressed or worried. It's a complex condition that can significantly impact our daily lives, relationships, and overall well-being. Whether you're experiencing anxiety yourself or supporting someone who is, understanding this condition is a first step towards managing it effectively. In this video, I'm going to share one real-life example and then guide you through the positive and negative aspects of anxiety and how it manifests when it becomes excessive, common symptoms to recognize it, effective treatment approaches, and strategies for moving forward. Before we dive in, please remember the information in this video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional psychological advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're experiencing psychological distress or feel that you relate to any of these symptoms I mentioned, please consult a qualified mental health professional. I have dealt with anxiety and fear since I was a young child, and it is something I have had to work on all my life. In fact, I'm still working on it. Luckily, it is not nearly as intense as it once was. One thing I've noticed when working with others is that everyone seems to have one lifelong struggle or issue, and this one just happens to be mine. My anxiety began for me in early childhood with a few specific incidences. I have two clear memories of when I was around maybe 3 or 4 years old. One was of being pushed into a pool at nursery school by a child I didn't know, and another of seeing mice in the house, a very common occurrence in England in the 60s. Whereas most children fear the boogeyman, not me. I only fear the things I could see and the things that could happen. These two experiences initiated my fear of strangers, a fear of drowning, and a fear of various creatures. In addition to these two experiences, at age 5, my family moved to America, and the next day I was dropped off at my kindergarten class with people I had never seen before. And to top it off, not knowing a single word of English. Seriously, not one word. Because the only language spoken in the household was my native Indian language. Because I had never interacted with anyone outside of my family except for that very brief time in nursery school, I never learned any English. In addition, in the early 60s in England, there weren't any TV shows for children where one might even learn to speak the English language. Talk about trauma. Can you imagine being dropped off in a foreign country with no phone, no translation app, and no one around you who speaks your language? It was terrifying. Well, in situations like these, thank goodness we all have innate skills that in order to feel safe, we quickly learn to become vigilant of people's behaviors and signs of potential danger. I certainly did this, and as time went on, my anxiety of specific things turned into more generalized anxiety as other negative experiences got added on, like being teased, misunderstood, or being excluded for being different. I'm sure many of you can relate to this as it is a common experience due to one reason or another. Because of the initial language barrier, I was also terribly behind in communication and social skills. Luckily, though, this improved over time, but because I was the only Indian child in school until the middle school, being different caused me to be an introvert and very shy well into my late 20s. When I applied to colleges, I thought I was brave enough and applied to a school in Pennsylvania. In my mind, I thought I would be okay moving away, but after touring it, the panic set in and I knew I couldn't go. It turns out I ended up at the school not only in my own state where I grew up, but in my own hometown. What a chicken I was, right? But it gets better. Get this. One of my college professors once told me I would never become a psychologist because I didn't take risks. Why? Because I didn't speak up in class. I've looked for that letter many times over the years, but I may have torn it up in anger. So are you wondering about how I eventually managed my anxiety and slowly ventured out of my comfort zone to speak up and become a psychologist? I'll share some things here, but stay tuned and you'll find out the other strategies later. Here are a few things that have helped me. Thanks to my father, I inherited a sense of adventure and stubborn determination, and so I've tried not to let my fears overtake me. My sense of adventure doesn't keep me sitting still for too long, so I'm always having new experiences and therefore learning and growing as a result. In addition, graduate school certainly helped me to gain the additional tools I needed to forge ahead in life despite my anxiety. And during my master's program, I'll never forget my mom telling me, "You can do it." At the time, I didn't believe her, but she was always right. Eventually, that became my personal mantra. Anxiety often gets a bad rap, but some of it is actually beneficial. Anxiety is our body's natural response to stress, real or imagined. It's that feeling of fear or apprehension about what's to come or what could happen, and is critical for survival. The benefits of good anxiety, otherwise known as adaptive anxiety, are it motivates action. It's just enough to push you to prepare, study, or complete tasks so that you don't face the negative consequences of what could happen if you didn't take action. It helps you to avoid procrastination. It also improves focus and alertness. It sharpens your attention and heightens your senses, and so you become alert to the important clues in your environment. This is what gets us ready for that fight or flight response if something seems out of place. It signals potential threats. It helps you to detect and evaluate risks, both physical and social, and acts as an early warning system in uncertain situations. It enhances problem solving. It can get us to think and plan for the possibilities and allows us to think through the potential consequences so we can prepare solutions. Social anxiety in small amounts can also help make you more empathic and considerate and to help you navigate social norms. Finally, it can encourage growth and resilience. When you manage anxiety, it can help you build emotional resilience and coping skills so that you can cope with situations without avoidance. Although anxiety is helpful for our survival, it can become problematic, and this is when it's disproportionate to the actual threat. It persists long after the stressful situation has passed. It interferes with daily functioning, or it prevents you from doing things that you want or need to do. Anxiety can manifest in numerous ways and often looks different from person to person. Here are some common anxiety disorders. Generalized anxiety disorder. This involves persistent and excessive worry about various things. People with generalized anxiety disorder often anticipate disasters and are overly concerned about money, health, family, work, or other issues. Imagine a pessimistic weather person living in your head who's always forecasting storms, even on sunny days. It's kind of like that. Social anxiety disorder. This is an intense fear about social situations stemming from feelings of judgment, embarrassment, or humiliation. It can make everyday interactions extremely difficult, especially since we are in the presence of people most of the time at school or work. And just a side note, some people think that they are finding so called relief from this remote jobs or online classes since the pandemic, but I can tell you in the long run, this is actually going to intensify the problem because it increases the anxiety when they have to go out because eventually they will have to. In addition, it also increases isolation, which leads to more anxiety and depression. Panic disorder. This involves reoccurring panic attacks, sudden periods of intense fear that come on quickly and reach their peak within minutes. These attacks can happen unexpectedly or be triggered by certain situations and often manifest in many physical symptoms. If you've seen my earlier video of decoding emotions, I talk about how one got triggered in me. Specific phobias. These are intense fears of specific objects or situations like heights, flying, or spiders, and that lead to avoidance behaviors. Obsessive compulsive disorder. Although it's classified differently from anxiety disorders now, OCD involves unwanted thoughts called obsessions and repetitive behaviors called compulsions performed to reduce anxiety. It's not anxiety, but it reduces anxiety, but in turn may cause more anxiety if it cannot be expressed. Post traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Also, now in a separate category, PTSD develops after experiencing or witnessing a traumatic event and may include many of the symptoms of anxiety that I will talk about shortly. Anxiety affects your mind, your body, and your behaviors. Let's look at these symptoms in each area. Physical symptoms may include rapid heartbeat or palpitations, shortness of breath or hyperventilation, muscle tension, especially in the neck, shoulders, and back, digestive issues like stomach aches, nausea, or diarrhea, headaches or dizziness, fatigue or sleep disturbances, sweating or hot flashes, trembling or shaking. Cognitive symptoms include excessive, uncontrollable worry, racing thoughts, difficulty concentrating, feelings of being on edge or restless, anticipating the worst outcomes, your mind going blank, rumination, and intrusive thoughts. Emotional symptoms are feelings of dread or impending doom, irritability, or being easily startled, overwhelmed feelings, sense of detachment from yourself, called depersonalization, and emotional numbness or heightened emotions. Behavioral symptoms can be avoidance of anxiety triggering situations, seeking excessive reassurance, procrastinations or having difficulty making decisions, compulsive behaviors to reduce anxiety, changes in eating patterns, social withdrawal, increased use of substances like alcohol or tobacco, and the excessive need to control things in your life or environment. Anxiety can also manifest differently across cultures and individuals. For example, some people might experience primarily physical symptoms and not recognize them as anxiety. Others might describe emotional or cognitive symptoms like constant worrying. And cultural factors can influence how people express anxiety and whether they seek help. It's worth noting that many of these symptoms overlap with other conditions, which is why proper assessment by a mental health professional is so important. Also, anxiety can often co-occur with depression and other mental health conditions. The good news is that anxiety disorders are highly treatable. Interventions typically involve one or more of the following. Talk therapy. It helps you to identify and challenge unhelpful thought patterns and gradually face feared situations. It helps you to make connections of how present day behaviors might be connected to the emotional experience from your past, and it helps you to move forward by letting go instead of staying stuck. Exposure therapy. This is a specific type of therapy that involves gradually confronting feared situations or objects in a controlled, supportive environment to reduce avoidance behaviors. Mindfulness. This incorporates meditation and present moment awareness to help you observe anxious thoughts without judgment and reduce reactivity. It provides some distance so that you are not consumed by your emotions. Medications that are beneficial are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, and serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, SNRIs. These are antidepressants but are commonly prescribed for anxiety disorders and can be effective for many people. Benzodiazepines. These medications provide rapid relief for anxiety symptoms but are typically prescribed for short-term use due to their potential for dependency. I do have to say that I am often surprised by PCPs who sometimes prescribe them for long periods of times, like months on end, for issues like sleep. This shouldn't be their purpose because of their addictiveness. Beta blockers. These can help manage physical symptoms like rapid heartbeat, particularly for performance anxiety. Buspirone. This anti-anxiety medication can be very effective for generalized anxiety disorder. Lifestyle adjustments that can help include regular physical exercise. Just 30 minutes of moderate exercise several times a week can significantly reduce anxiety symptoms. Getting adequate sleep. Poor sleep can exacerbate anxiety, so establishing healthy sleep habits is crucial. If you really can't sleep because of anxiety and ruminating thoughts, then talk to your PCP about trying melatonin or Benadryl for short periods of time. If those don't work, then talking to your PCP or psychiatrist about getting some other sleep agents might be necessary. Just as a side note, trazodone has often been prescribed as an effective medication for sleep. Finally, nature sounds or sounds like binaural beats may help you to get to sleep or stay asleep. Having good nutrition is important. Reducing caffeine, alcohol, and sugar intake may help you minimize anxiety symptoms. Stress management techniques, deep breathing, progressive relaxation, and grounding techniques can manage anxiety in the moment. Social support is important. Maintaining healthy relationships and sharing your experiences can reduce isolation and provide perspective. It's worth noting that many people benefit from combined approaches, therapy along with medication or professional treatment along with lifestyle changes. Treating any disorder in multidimensional ways is always the best approach. As I stated in my personal story that I would share other strategies that help me to decrease my anxiety later in this video, well, here it is. Anxiety is something that I fight with often, but two things have helped me. One is that past experience has often taught me that everything works out despite my anxiety, so that gives me hope and confidence in trying other things. Even when things have not worked out, it has still taught me something. The second thing is that I know myself very well and know what I need to do and what helps me. When I am embarking on something new and I feel anxiety, I take small, manageable steps towards that goal. Then I get education about it, as I believe knowledge is power, and then I talk to my friends to decrease my fears or roadblocks, just enough to take another small, manageable step. Sometimes I have to repeat these steps often, but little by little it gets easier, and before you know it, I have already started the very thing I was scared of. The benefits of talking to friends is that oftentimes I find out that they too deal with anxiety over various things. So it's always good to know that I'm not alone, or I learn from them what they did that was beneficial. This is what works for me, so it's important to know yourself and what works for you. And the only way to know that is to pay attention to your feelings after an experience, because your emotions will tell you. As we wrap up today's discussion about anxiety, I want to leave you with some important thoughts. First, while working with thousands of people over the years, I have noticed that if there is a strong or frequent need to control something or someone, like how something is done or trying to control someone else's behavior, then there is probably some underlying anxiety. As I mentioned earlier, the need to control is one of the coping mechanisms used. If you see this as a coping mechanism in yourself, it would be important to get it under control, as it can affect relationships in the long run. After all, nobody wants to be controlled and told what to do, especially in adult relationships. Second, if you are struggling with anxiety, you are not alone. As I stated earlier, it is a worldwide issue. Talk about it and share it, and it will feel better letting it out. And in fact, comment below and share your story of your challenging moments with anxiety and how you overcame them. Better yet, pause this video and think of something you would like to overcome and what's one small action you can take towards that goal. Share that too in the comments. Let's build a community to share ideas and support one another. Third, anxiety is not a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It doesn't define who you are or limit what you can achieve. Many highly successful, creative, and resilient people manage anxiety conditions while living rich, meaningful lives. In fact, I don't know of a single successful person who didn't feel anxiety when they failed or had a setback. They all did. They just didn't let it stop them. Finally, recovery isn't always linear. You might have setbacks, and that's normal because life throws us curveballs all the time. The goal isn't to eliminate anxiety completely. Some anxiety is beneficial, as I stated earlier, and a natural part of being human. Instead, the goal is to develop a relationship with anxiety where it doesn't control your life or prevent you from doing what matters to you. If you're supporting someone with anxiety, patience and understanding go a long way. Sometimes the most helpful thing you can do is to listen without judgment and encourage professional help when needed. And as I have stated in a previous video, emotions are contagious. So if someone is anxious, try your best not to become that way too, so that you can be supportive. Remember that healing is possible. So, for those of you experiencing anxiety, I want to acknowledge your courage. It takes strength to face anxiety, to seek help, and to work on developing new ways of coping with difficult emotions and thoughts. The treatments I have discussed in this video has helped countless people reduce their symptoms and reclaim their lives back. There is nothing more rewarding to me in my work than seeing people overcome their challenges. You too have the same ability. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to this channel for more mental health content. Share it with others so that they too can manage their anxiety and know what signs to look for when it becomes overwhelming. Thank you for watching this video, and remember, anxiety may be a part of your story, but it doesn't have to be the whole story. Each step you take to overcome it will develop confidence for the next challenge, and each challenge leads to growth and wisdom. Take care of yourselves and your mental health, and until next time, be well.